What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get into in the world of volleyball, such as what a weekend in NCAA women's volleyball. Week 1 is in the books, and it was a wild weekend. Texas falls to Long Beach State. Yes, and yours truly was there to witness the action. Also, how about Colorado State upsetting Kentucky? The Rams, who had that one on their bingo card. Also, Western Kentucky took down Marquette in a nice little thriller in Dayton, Ohio. We also had a few other upsets, such as BYU knocking off Pitt, getting a little bit of revenge after the last 2 seasons. And also we have some AVP to discuss, as the Chicago Open is the last tournament before the championships, as it's a big-time tournament. And we have some high school volleyball, as Mater Dei, a really good volleyball team in California, they're flying under the radar as they just won the Volleypalooza Tournament in Texas. So hand me a volleyball, set the net, because I'm about to serve you up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 209 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on what is formerly known as Twitter, X, TikTok, and Instagram at IE Sports Radio. We also have Facebook for those that still use Facebook, as all you just have to do is type in the word IE, then sports, then radio, and then boom, like us, and then that's how you're able to follow us. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go there, you'll see our daily website, which is updated on the spot, which features our blog, the sports news that's been happening all over the world, our IE Sports Radio Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, our pages dedicated to each podcast, including this one, our IE Sports Radio Community Forum, and our merchandise shop, because now that summer is going away, you'll need that sweater eventually. Because for the past 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, such as my guest from last week, Daniel Gilman, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 league champion Lake Elsinore Storm, which is the single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. The all brisket beef jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit www.planetjerky.net and place your order. I've had Planet Jerky, and it is scrum-diddly-umptious. Yes, I will never use that reference again, but it's very good. I had the barbecue one, and then I had the very hot one, which is the second hottest one of the 5 spicy ones, and boy howdy, it piqued my flavor. Follow Planet Jerky on Instagram at Planet Jerky, and once again, a huge shout out to Planet Jerky, the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm. Planet Jerky, the jerky that is on a whole other planet. With all that said and done, let us begin. So it was a very busy weekend in the volleyball world in terms of NCAA women's volleyball. So, man, I don't know where to start. We didn't just have one upset. Everyone is probably thinking I'm just going to lead off with Long Beach State, but nah, there was more than one upset, and we're just going to start Friday down the line, as the first upset actually started with Western Kentucky taking down Marquette, and it was a 4-set win for Western Kentucky. They were number 24 in the AVCA coaches polls, while Marquette was number 12, so yeah, if you had that on your bingo card, congratulations on getting that correct. So, yeah. I was very impressed by Western Kentucky. I did not think they would pull this one off, honestly, but I don't think they are going to be slept on anytime soon for the most part, as Paige Briggs is legit for that team. My only qualm with Western Kentucky is that they followed that up with a 3-set loss to Dayton of all teams. Now, Dayton, I've always known Dayton to be an under-the-radar team. Last year was kind of an exception. They lost to Loyola of Chicago in the A10 tournament finals. But honestly, Dayton is a solid program. They're not bad by any means. So, I just found it rather hard to believe that Western Kentucky lost this matchup following the win over Marquette. So maybe I'm looking too ahead, but I think this was the case of maybe you got a little too high on that win, and it is on the same day. So maybe there was a little bit of too much adrenaline, or maybe they were just a little gassed. So I don't know. Regardless, it's still a good day for Western Kentucky, as the Hilltoppers I really am impressed on, and I basically said it on the Set Point Twitter account. I'm not sleeping on Western Kentucky. No one should be sleeping on Western Kentucky. Just because they're not a Power 5 school does not mean they're bad by any means. And just because Rice left for, I forget which conference, I think they were in Conference USA. Was it Conference USA? They were in Conference USA and they left for another conference. But either way, even though they don't have the stiffest competition, and I think their conference is pretty much theirs to lose, I really think Western Kentucky can still make noise. They've got a big test ahead this weekend at Penn State, which I'll be getting into that a little bit later. But Western Kentucky had a solid weekend, and that win over Marquette was really incredible. Now that we're on the topic of Penn State, they actually fell to Florida, number 11 Florida. Number 8 Penn State fell to Florida in 4 sets. This was actually played at USF, which is the home of Tampa Bay. And that's actually going to be the location of the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship and the location of the AVCA convention, which Daniel Gilman talked about last week. And I don't know, should I get a GoFundMe account started to get myself to and from, and a hotel package to go to the AVCA convention? Maybe. I'll consider it, especially if the AVCA is willing to accommodate me to do a live show of Set Point, but I digress. Anyway, so Florida beat Penn State 18-25, 25-23, 25-17, and 26-24. Florida had 4 players in double digits, and they were led by Kennedy Martin, who had 18 kills, which is pretty good. Penn State only had 1 player in double digits in terms of kills, so I don't know what to say when it comes to Penn State. They just didn't have it. I didn't think Florida was going to win this one. Keep in mind, Penn State has the most stacked team, having a very good transfer portal team. It's kind of like Texas from last year, except more Big Ten centric. Either way, I was very shocked that Penn State lost this one, so I don't know how to basically describe this loss. I mean, number 11 versus number 8, it's not all that big of an upset, but I think I really expected Penn State to have a much better, showing in this matchup. But maybe traveling just got in the way or something. I don't know. Or maybe Florida was just tired of the disrespect and they just wanted people to they want to put their name on notice. So we'll see what happens for Penn State going forward. But this was not really the best showing for Penn State. And then now we get on into the big meat of the upsets on Friday. We had number 17 BYU taking down number 5 Pitt in Montana in 4 sets. Now, Pitt has gotten the better of BYU in the previous years, but in my opinion, I thought this was going to be another one of those times, but BYU had enough. Keep in mind, BYU is now in the tough Big 12, as opposed to being in the West Coast Conference, which was a 2-horse race between them and San Diego. But for BYU, I was very impressed. Claire Little, who I sing so much praises for, she's only a freshman. She had 11 kills in her college debut, and she had 9 digs, which is pretty darn good. So if there's one player that has a lot of upside on BYU, it's definitely Claire Little, because she had such an outstanding career at Vista Marietta. And for me, I really think that this was a big win for BYU. I didn't think Pitt was going to lose, especially since they had a good amount of players returning, and they got pretty good in terms of the transfer portal. So for BYU to pull this win off is very incredible. And before I get on into the final 2 upsets of Friday, I want to give a shout out to the chat room. Larry B in the chat room, It's Drewski, and Adam Karnick. Adam Karnick says, long live the Untouchables, best Chicago sports name ever. And Larry B is just making fun of the Untouchables. He says that's like naming the Raiders the Untouchables. Yeah, it's not looking too hot for the Untouchables. But you still have Loyola of Chicago and Northwestern in terms of Chicago volleyball. And Drewski says, have a fire show, Teran. Hey, thank you very much. Very, very much, brother. All right, now for the last 2 upsets of Friday. So, Colorado State defeating number 10 Kentucky. So, honestly, this was a big win for Colorado State. It's been a while since Colorado State's beaten Kentucky, and it's been a while since Colorado State has had a top 10 win, but Colorado State, in the new era of its head coach, Emily Cohen, really started the era off really strong. They actually had the 3rd most highest selling crowd in women's volleyball history, and they had, I want to say it's the highest student section sellout there was. So, or the most students they've had in women's volleyball history. So it was a big win for Colorado State. They won in 4 sets. That first set was very tight, won at 29-27, and they just went from there. I know they lost that 3rd set by 5, but Colorado State just really turned on the gas in this one. And that is their first top 10 win since September 12th, 2014. If anyone knows who Colorado State beat, put it in the chat room or leave it in the comment section on YouTube, or just let me know on my Twitter or Instagram, and then I'll give you a shout out on the next show. But Colorado State, man, that's a big win for Colorado State, especially since they're in an interesting conference. In the Mountain West Conference, home of UNLV, which is a good team. I know UNLV did sneak into the NCAA tournament, but they didn't win the Mountain West Conference tournament. That actually went to the honor of, I want to say it was like San Jose State, if I'm not mistaken. It was either San Jose State or, it was not Colorado State. I know San Diego State lost in the semis, but I want to say it was either San Jose State or I'm blanking on that one. But either way, it's an interesting conference, but I will say this about Colorado State, that's a big step in the right direction. And for a coach to debut with a win over a top 10 team, which hasn't been done in over, 8-9 years, that's incredible right there. So, good for Colorado State. And for Kentucky, I followed their reporter, Hunter Mitchell, on Twitter. He basically just said they just struggled in most of the aspects of the game, and that's kind of alarming. I know it's only the first week, and we shouldn't hit the panic button, but if Kentucky struggles like that, I don't know if they can go deep into the NCAA tournament. I'm not trying to count out Kentucky. I think Kentucky can turn it around. And remember, they had a horrible loss to start last season, and then they eventually turned it around with some really good wins. And they eventually wound up winning the SEC, or clinching a share of it. So all in all, for Kentucky, it just wasn't their weekend, or it just wasn't their game. They did bounce back over Northern Colorado. Colorado State eventually did lose to Stanford the following day, or the following match, but it was still a successful weekend for Colorado State regardless. I think they can build off this. And now we got to get on into the elephant in the room in terms of upsets from Friday. Long Beach State beating No.1 Texas. Oh boy. Now, I was in attendance for this matchup, and I'm just going to say this. Man, what an environment. It's been a while since Long Beach State women's volleyball has had a marquee win. Their last big win was against San Diego back in 2021 when Joy Mackenzie Furbringer was still their head coach. And that was actually the year she actually got the boot, a.k.a. her walking papers, a.k.a. she got fired. But anyway, yeah, it's been a while since Long Beach State women's volleyball has had a true marquee win, but they pulled it off against Texas. They wound up winning in 4 sets, and they started off a little sluggish, but then they really picked it up in the first set. Then, obviously, Texas rebounded nicely in the second set. They didn't trail. Third set, Long Beach State re-brought the energy, and they thumped Texas in that third set, 25-16. And then fourth set, obviously, it was back and forth, but Long Beach State really swung the momentum with some well-timed serves. They blocked decently, and they just had a lot of good hustle plays. And believe it or not, that's actually their first win over the #1 team in the nation since September 1st, 2021. Huge shout-out to Lindy Zamora, the SID at Long Beach State, or Tyler Hildebrand for telling me that. But Lindy Zamora did confirm that. So that was actually the year that Long Beach State fell to Stanford in the NCAA championship. But back then, Long Beach State was number 8 in the AVCA coaches polls, and they beat Nebraska back then. So how fitting that their head coach, who was a former assistant of Nebraska, beat Texas. It all comes full circle. But for Long Beach State, this was huge for them. They had a lot of balanced attacks. Their offense was so great. They had Hannah Lesiak, who was a transfer from Northwestern, who stepped up. And there was actually a play where she actually got blocked in the first set, and then the ball went straight off her face. I saved the clip. It's going to be posted in my highlight reel on Instagram. But she actually swung at the ball so hard, she got blocked by Molly Phillips, and the ball just smacked her in the face, and then she kind of went down to the ground. But she was okay. She shook it off, and she was strong. Abby Carrick, who was a transfer from Utah, was strong. Mara Hayes came off the bench and had 10 kills. It was just a great balanced attack for Long Beach State. And I actually have the stats around me. Here they are, as the stats were Abby Carrick, Mara Hayes, and Hannah Lesiak, 10 kills each. Cameron Bacon, 9 kills. Katie Kennedy, 8 kills. And honestly, Long Beach State fed off the momentum from the crowd. Now, obviously, Texas was not themselves. They didn't have Logan Eggleston, who they graduated. But the big problem for Texas was that they just didn't pass. They didn't hit the ball well. And also, they just didn't have Asia O'Neal. Now, everyone is going to say, well, Asia O'Neal would have made a huge difference. And I agree. I talked to her father, Jermaine. Yes, the former NBA player, Jermaine O'Neal. I basically said if Asia was playing, it might have been a whole different result. But honestly, you're the defending champs. You still have the likes of Maddie Skinner, Molly Phillips. You've got Jenna Wennis, who transferred from Minnesota. I don't think anyone is going to basically give you a pass for this. And if Texas was playing a top 10 team or maybe a top 15 team, maybe we can give them a pass, but you lost to an unranked Long Beach State team that didn't even have a single vote in the AVCA coaches poll. Yikes. So that was a huge win for Long Beach State, and Davidson Crooks basically said in the chat room, he said, momentum builder. And thank you for popping into the chat room, Davidson. So it was a huge win for Long Beach State. Unfortunately for Long Beach State, they kind of saw, a little bit of a letdown later that weekend. Texas did bounce back as they beat LMU, or Loyola Marymount, in straight sets. It was kind of a little rocky matchup just because LMU was so scrappy. But I will say this, LMU was not as bad as most people think they are. I think that was more so Texas needed to bounce back more so than LMU was not good. And LMU swept Long Beach State yesterday, which everyone is kind of ragging. Some people, and I feel I should call this person out. Okay, fine, I'll call this. I'll say who it was. My guest, Daniel Gilman, kind of said on Twitter via the Six Rotations account, Long Beach State's party is over. Well, first of all, they beat the number 1 team in the nation. First of all, when did they throw a party? It's like, stop it. Stop it, dude. Like, give Long Beach State credit. Like, it's so tough to have a win over the number 1 team, and then you have the day off, and then you're playing an LMU team which just lost and challenged the number 1 team in a 3-set loss the following day. So my thing for Long Beach State is this. I think they're actually dangerous, and I'm going to make this take right here. I think Long Beach State gets into the NCAA tournament. Now, they have to play their cards right. They actually have to win the games they're supposed to win. They cannot afford losses to like Cal State Fullerton like they had last year, or UC Santa Barbara. Well, even though Santa Barbara is so tricky to win at. And they have to beat teams that they have to challenge. Like, they've got UCLA, Washington, and Indiana. I know all those teams are not ranked, but those teams are still legit. UCLA split their matchups against LSU. Washington, they had a rocky weekend, but they were receiving votes prior to last weekend. And then Indiana, that's a Big Ten team. They're pretty solid as well. So Long Beach State is really going to have to prove themselves going forward, because now that they beat Texas, they're going to have some expectations on their heads if they want to make the NCAA tournament. And I think they can. I feel they definitely have that ick factor. I mean, those players that I just mentioned, Hannah Lisiak, Abby Carrick, those players were kind of the two-headed monster. And Cameron Bacon has really come into her own at the middle blocker position. Zaina Meyer did an outstanding job running the offense, as always, and Savannah Chacon was just a vacuum cleaner in terms of digging the ball. She had 21 digs in that win over Texas. That's just incredible. I will also say that Texas did not serve the ball well. They only had 2 aces, both of which coming from Maddie Skinner, but they missed 17 serves, which is a big fat woof. The only good thing that Texas had in the win over Long Beach State was blocks. They outblocked Long Beach State 13-4, which normally when you outblock a team like that, you're supposed to win, but that was not the case for Texas. But for Texas, it's kind of good they got the loss out of the way, just because they can only go up from here. But now they're no longer invincible, and they got to get Asia O'Neal back ASAP. Because if they don't get Asia O'Neal back, the teams that are on their schedule, aka Minnesota and then Stanford, that's the teams that they have this week. They could come in and they could bust that door down against Texas, but we'll see what happens. Jumping over to Saturday's upsets, we had number 20 Georgia Tech taking down number 8 Penn State in 4 sets. Now, Georgia Tech was actually outblocked 17-9 in this match, but they actually outkilled Penn State 56-41. They had 3 players in double digits in terms of kills, while Penn State only had a whopping 1, which Jess Maruzic was that 1 player in double digits in terms of kills. So for Penn State, this is kind of the whole, what the heck happened to you? You're supposed to be the stacked team, having lots of transfer players on your team, and you laid a goose egg to Georgia Tech. Now, keep in mind, this is Georgia Tech without Julia Bergman. Julia Bergman is gonzo. She's graduated. She's probably playing international volleyball for Brazil. I can't believe Penn State lost that one. It was one thing to lose to Florida, but to lose to Georgia Tech, nothing against Michelle Collier's team, but how did you lose to Georgia Tech? Is the heat getting that much to you in Tampa Bay? Like, good Lord, Penn State. Penn State might want to figure it out, because they're way too good to be losing to a team like Georgia Tech. I'm not trying to rag on Georgia Tech, and I'm not trying to say Georgia Tech stinks, or they're the Raiders of the ACC without Julia Bergman, but I give them credit. They really pulled off a big win over a talented Penn State team. I just was very surprised Penn State just had that big of a letdown. It was just a whole letdown this weekend, losing to Florida and Georgia Tech. So I don't know what to say about Penn State. But Georgia Tech, this was a big win for them. They beat USF and they beat Penn State. And I got to give it up to Michelle Collier's team. They really impressed me this weekend. And I'm excited to see what they can do this weekend against Ohio State, not once, but twice. Also on Saturday, we had Hawaii defeating number 13 San Diego in 4 sets. Long story short, this is not an upset. Hawaii has most of their team back from last year. They got a really good player from Youngstown State. San Diego lost like 85% of their team. This is no upset. Hawaii at home with all their players back against a San Diego team that's kind of on the semi-rebuild. That's no upset. Of course, Hawaii's going to win that matchup. So I don't really need to discuss too much. The sets were close that Hawaii won. They won the first set 27-25, won the second set 25-22. I want to say they outscored San Diego, I think in the last 4 points. They were down 22-21, but then they scored the last 4 points. The only bad set that they had was set 3 where San Diego wound up winning 25-18, but San Diego got off to such a blistering start and they never looked back. But then Hawaii shut the door, and they wound up winning 25-22. And there was a really good play where Amber Igide, if I'm mispronouncing that, I am so sorry. I think it's pronounced Igide? Amber Igide had a one-handed block, and it seems like Stan Sheriff Center Stan Sheriff Center is basically the home of one-handed blocks, because Cole Hoagland had a one-handed block for Hawaii men's volleyball. But Amber Igide, Lord have mercy, with that one-handed block. But this was not really an upset. Next up, we had number 18 Creighton defeating number 16 Purdue via a sweep, 28-26, 25-21, 25-20 at Purdue, and Hawaii beat San Diego at San Diego. The Creighton-Purdue upset is not really that much of an upset. I mean, Creighton is very good. They have Nora Sis, who is just a beast, but they weren't even led by Nora Sis. Ava Martin was the one that led the way with 15 kills. For Purdue, they had Eva Hudson lead the way, but let me just tell you something. If Creighton is not being led by Nora Sis, that's a problem for the opposing team, because that means Creighton has a new secret weapon unlocked. And then for Nora Sis, obviously she had 12 kills, while Martin had 15 kills. I'm just going to say this. Creighton could be sneaky good. Hence the word could, but you just can't count them out. But I'm just very surprised that Purdue had that, stinky bad game. Like, losing is one thing, but getting swept? Ugh. And you're number 16 in the nation. How is this possible? Make it make sense, Purdue. And then the last upset on Saturday was number 23 Rice sweeping USC at the University of Houston, a.k.a. Tudor Fieldhouse. This was not an upset. This was nowhere near an upset. I was very suspect on USC being ranked, and this loss was the reason why. Believe it or not, Amelia Vesca, a former USC player, actually went off on USC. She had 11 kills, 3 service aces, and 13 digs. Well, USC, I hope you're happy with having Amelia Vesca walk out the door, because she straight up owned you from the other side. I don't know what you did to make her transfer, but she really spanked you with her new team. She laid down that H-Town smack on y'all, or wherever Rice is from. Man, that's just rather saddening for SC, but if Larry's still listening, I just gotta say this. I think USC is the Raiders of women's volleyball. And that's no offense to SC. I like SC, but I just think they're kind of overhyped. And you're about to see why that USC does not deserve to be ranked. But it's a good win for Rice, and I'm happy for Amelia Vesca. I forgot Amelia Vesca transferred to Rice, and then for her to have that monster game. Okay, I guess we wouldn't call it monster game, but that big of a revenge game against her former team, that's big time right there. And I hope that coach gave her the game ball, because if not, I will be very sad. So that's that for Saturday's upsets. Now for Sunday's upsets, the first one that comes to mind is Duke beating Creighton. Duke beating number 18 Creighton in 5 sets. And that was actually not on my list of upsets, but I do remember the upset quite well. So I will say this about Duke. Well, I'll say this for Duke. They're not as bad as most people think they are. I think Duke is under the radar. Now, they went 1-2 last weekend, but the teams that they lost to aren't bad. They took Purdue to 4 sets. They got swept by Loyola Chicago, which I'm about to explain why that's not bad. And then also, they just beat Creighton, which I think is a very good win. Creighton is an NCAA tournament team perennially, and honestly, I think Duke has a lot of upside. They've got Jess Robinson, Gracie Johnson. Well, Gracie Johnson returned from last year's team. She's using her 5th year, and then Jess Robinson transferred from Michigan. So all in all for Duke, this is a big marquee win and a big step in the right direction. And it's actually their 999th win of their entire program. So they only need one more win to eclipse win number 1,000. So good job to Duke, and I had to make note of that. I had to make note of Duke's win over number 18 Creighton. Now, on the same topic in that same little tournament, we had Loyola Chicago upsetting number 16 Purdue. Now, I did not know this was a thing. I was just fully kind of focused on the Long Beach State tournament, or the LBSU tournament. But I will say this, I don't know how Purdue wound up losing this one. They were down 2-1 in the match, they forced a 5th set, and they were actually up 12-7 in set 5. And Loyola Chicago wound up winning that 5th set 16-14. So Loyola Chicago outscored Purdue 9-2 en route to beating them in that 5th set. Ouch, Purdue. Ouch. How did you lose a 12-7 lead in set 5? Was the other team just serving that tough, or I don't know what to tell you, Purdue. Oh, I just will tell you this. You're not a top 20 team, that's for sure. If you can't beat Duke in straight sets, or if Duke is taking a set off you, an unranked Loyola Chicago team is beating you, and then you're getting swept on your home floor against a team ranked underneath you, you certainly don't deserve to be in the top 20. So that's a big win for Loyola Chicago, though. They went 2-1 as their only loss was against Creighton, which, like I said, Creighton's a good team. They're a very good team, and we can't give them any flack for the loss to Duke. And yes, Duke is not the greatest team, but I just mentioned that they have some pretty darn good players on their team. So that was just a wacky tournament all around. But hey, this was a wacky weekend all around. And then the last upset we had was Northwestern defeating number 13 San Diego in 4 sets. This wasn't really an upset. And like I said, San Diego lost the majority of its players to graduation. Northwestern did lose Temi Thomas Ilara to Wisconsin in the transfer portal. And they lost a few other players to other teams, like Hannah Lisiak to Long Beach State. But they gained a few other players, like Julia San Giacomo. Now, I've seen Julia San Giacomo play. She is a whopping 6'5", and she can hit the ball really well. She could block the ball well. She was a beast for Northwestern. She had 21 kills. Meanwhile, for San Diego, they're over here, and they did not have any player crack double digits in terms of kills. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I will say this for San Diego. They don't deserve to be ranked either, just because after that Long Beach State LMU loss, I basically said there are 2 teams that I think don't deserve to be ranked, while Long Beach State does deserve to be ranked. San Diego and USC. And for good reason being, just because, well, San Diego is not the same team as last year, and SC, they're not proving themselves. They didn't prove themselves. They lost to Houston in 4, and they wound up getting swept by Rice, which had one of their former teammates. So, yeah. But for Northwestern, this was a solid win. it was a good end to a weekend. And with all that was going on the offseason, revolving their head coach Shane Davis and the whole Northwestern thing, it's a good start to their season. I know 1-2 isn't glamorous, but they took Hawaii to 5 sets on Friday, which is pretty good. Just because Hawaii is one of the tougher teams to beat at Hawaii. It's so tough to beat them at Stan Sheriff Center. So I will say that. Yeah, Northwestern can build off this, but do I think Northwestern can be world beaters? Absolutely not. But at least they're not. They at least showed up, unlike the Chicago Untouchables. Sorry, Adam, and sorry, Chicago Untouchables. All right, but that's enough for the upsets that happened. There were a few other notables. There were like a bunch of other matches that went 5 sets that were not upsets. Like Ohio State went 5. Marquette had to go 5 a couple more times. There were quite a number of... Like, Florida went 5 with USF, but wound up winning. Stanford had to go 4 with Colorado State, like I just mentioned. They didn't have Kendall Kipp in the first match, but they still managed to sweep Northern Colorado. So, there were some rather interesting results in the first day. And heck, even TCU took a set off of Minnesota, but they wound up going 0-2, but same with Baylor. Baylor also went 0-2 against Minnesota and Wisconsin in the Big 10, Big 12 crossover. So it's nothing to basically get overly sad about if you're a fan of one of those teams. But hey, it was just such a fantastic weekend of volleyball, and I was so happy that NCAA women's volleyball is back. So that is basically that for all of the upsets. I actually do want to talk a little about my weekend at Long Beach State, and then we'll jump to a quick commercial break, and then we'll jump into the second half of the show. So my weekend at Long Beach State, covering that match against Texas, Long Beach State and Texas, it's one of the reasons why I like doing what I do. Like, the student section was the most students that Long Beach State has had in women's volleyball. And then there was like over 3,700 people there at the Pyramid. Obviously, it was not a sellout crowd, and I wish it could have been a sellout crowd for Long Beach State's sake. But it was still packed to the brim with like Texas fans and Long Beach State fans. And I even got to meet Jermaine O'Neal, like I said, and it was such an incredible night. So I've never even covered a number 1 team losing to another team. The closest I've ever gotten was like Hawaii in men's volleyball losing to Long Beach State, but we never got to see this fan storm the court and whatnot. So that was just an incredible atmosphere. I was just so flabbergasted that Long Beach State actually pulled off that sort of upset. And I will issue an apology. It's time I issued an apology, and I ate my words from last weekend, or last week's show. All right, so as many of you know, Daniel and I briefly talked about the Long Beach State Texas match. He kind of egged me on and told me I don't think Long Beach State Texas is going to be all that exciting. Now, I, being the fool that I am, agreed with him. I basically said, yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think Texas might win, but he kind of rebaited me, and then he said, well, Long Beach State is still going to go out there and they're still going to try, and you never know, and you still never know what's going to happen, because this is the ultimate any given week mentality, just because you never know what could happen. And look at what happened. Long Beach State pulled off the 4-set win over number 1 Texas. So I gotta say this to Long Beach State. I do apologize for doubting you. I do apologize for not defending you. I should also mention that I am an alum. I should have defended Long Beach State a little more. I wanted to, but I just didn't want to show my bias toward my guests. Even though Daniel Gilman knows that I did go to Long Beach State, and he said it best. That's still in my neck of the woods, even though I don't live in Long Beach. Anyway, but for me, I kind of should have maybe stuck up for Long Beach State a little bit more. I maybe should have said you never know when it comes to that. If I had at least said that, I would have probably looked like a little less of a fool. But now, I'm issuing this apology, And I'm basically saying I think Long Beach State might really be Volleyball U. I think Tyler Hildebrand wasn't wrong when he said Long Beach State is going to be Volleyball U, because their beach volleyball team won the Big West Conference tournament, which eventually earned them the automatic qualifier to the NCAA tournament. The men's volleyball team had a lot of success advancing to the Final Four, and their women's volleyball team just pulled off the upset. Now, obviously, it's still early in the season, but I will say this. As long as Long Beach State plays like they did against Texas, and they have the high energy and the hustle plays, I think they're going to do really good this season. And I know they've got a big tournament this week. They've got Indiana on Thursday, Washington on Friday, and then UCLA Saturday. They're going to be tested, but again, if they go at least 2-1 against any of those opponents, then they're solid throughout the entire rest of the week. Because the following week, they have to hit the road to Omaha, Nebraska, to play University of Omaha, and then they also have to play Nebraska, which is Tyler Hildebrand's stomping grounds in terms of being a former head coach. So that's going to be something else to be noted of. And Tyler Hildebrand basically said this in his press conferences. They're going to be tested in the first 5 weeks, and then after they head down to Nebraska, they got to go to Arizona to play Arizona, Alabama State, and New Mexico. And then after that, they've got the first week of Big West Conference play, where they have Cal Poly and Santa Barbara, which is chosen to finish in the top 5, which is not easy. And then after that, they've got UC San Diego, which they're on the cusp of finishing in the top 6. They were chosen to finish 7th, which is incredible. Maybe they could make the tournament. Because remember, top 6 teams make the Big West Conference tournament this year. But they have UC San Diego after that first week of Big West Conference play, and then they've got Hawaii the following week. That's already the first 6 weeks. That's 6 weeks of brutality right there. They've already got their first week of brutality done, where they split against Texas and Loyola Marymount. And the Loyola Marymount game, they weren't bad. Like, the first set, they were actually leading for the most part, and then LMU caught their second wind. And believe it or not, LMU, in their matchup against Texas, they wound up leading, jumping out to early fast starts, but then they just wound up running out of gas as Texas basically just turned the tide. So it wasn't really all of Long Beach State's undoing. I really think Long Beach State kind of had the rest versus rust factor, and they were at the Texas Loyola Marymount game studying film and basically watching what they need to watch in terms of Loyola Marymount. And they knew that they could not basically afford to get too high on the Long Beach or on the Texas win. They knew that Loyola Marymount was going to be a big-time opponent. And I guess I should also mention that it's so unusual seeing Long Beach State play on a Sunday. They never, ever, 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 ever play on Sundays in terms of my years of covering Long Beach State women's volleyball. So that was also kind of a weird thing to see, but I don't think Long Beach State is ever going to be playing on Sunday in terms of women's volleyball. Maybe they could have been better off playing on Saturday, but you don't want to step on Texas's toes, because Texas had to play Saturday just because they want to go back, just because they had a very quick turnaround. Because if Texas played on Sunday, they would have to have a quick turnaround, only get 1 day of practice and rest, and then head on down to Minnesota, which that's such a tough turnaround for a team that is without their best middle blocker, and that basically got punched in the mouth. So I kind of understand why Long Beach State had to play on Sunday. And they couldn't play on Thursday because the start of the NCAA women's volleyball season was on August 25th and not on August 24th, which was a Thursday. So that's kind of the understanding of why Long Beach State had to play on Sunday. That's just my thing right there. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a part of the Long Beach State athletic department or scheduling department or women's volleyball coaching staff. I don't know. But I will say this, I just enjoyed covering all those matches. I enjoyed covering Long Beach State, Texas. I enjoyed covering Texas LMU, and I enjoyed covering LMU Long Beach State. I even got to meet some of the LMU players. Like, Sam Hastings was such a really cool person to interview. She's the libero for LMU, and she's a former player on USC. She actually transferred from USC, and I'm just going to say USC's loss is LMU's gain. I think she's going to play beach volleyball, I want to say. But Sam Hastings was so awesome of an interview, and she was very nice. She was so grateful that I interviewed her. So I will say this. Thank you to Sam Hastings if you are listening. You're awesome for letting me interview you. As well as Kari Geisberger. I will say this. I fumbled that interview so badly. I looked like Joshua Kelly from the Chargers. But I digress. But I really did fumble that interview against Kari Geisberger. But I kind of brought it back. But if you've seen Kari Geisberger, she's 6'5", and I'm only like 6'2" on an average day. So I was kind of intimidated. And then their head coach, Trent Kirsten, he's only in his first year. I forgot to mention, Trent Kirsten is in his first year as head coach. Obviously, his debut, his first year as head coach for Loyola Marymount. His debut for the Lions saw them losing in 3 sets to Texas. But bouncing back after losing in 3 sets to Texas and then beating Long Beach State at Long Beach State was a big bounce back win and a great way to get your first win as the Lions head coach. Now, for LMU, they can go forward from there as they travel to Provo to take on BYU on Wednesday, which I'll be getting into in a little bit. But that's going to do it for NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 1. We're going to take ourselves a quick break. When we come back, we've got the AVP Chicago Open to discuss. We've got a little high school volleyball to discuss. We've got the U.S. women's national team winning gold at the NORCECA Final Six. And then we've got the second week of the NCAA women's volleyball season to go over. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each And every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter at SinCities_IESR. And you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Definitely check out all of our shows on IE Sports Radio. That other drop that you just heard, Chi-Town Weekly, that is a show that primarily goes on an hour before the show goes live as Adam Carnt talks all things Chicago sports. And that's actually a perfect segue to go into our next topic, as we'll be discussing the AVP's next tournament in the Chicago Open. So the AVP has its next tournament heading on down to the Windy City for the Chicago Open. It's another Gold Series tournament, so it's big time. And this is the final tournament before the championships. Yes, they have not announced, they still haven't announced where the championships are going to be. Whether it's going to be in Phoenix, whether it's going to be in Newport Beach, whether it's going to be in Huntington Beach. They still haven't announced where the AVP championships are going to be. But the AVP Bally's Chicago Open, or I'm just going to call it the Chicago Open, okay? Anyway, so the Chicago Open is from September 1st through September 3rd. We've got a lot of volleyball this weekend. So here are the event details. The Midwest tradition continues as Chicago hosts the 2023 AVP Bally's Gold Series Chicago Open, presented by CDW and Microsoft. God, that's a mouthful. Beach volleyball's best and brightest will battle to become the pride of Oak Street Beach. This marks the 33rd year of the tournament in Chicago, which has become a Labor Day favorite and a can't-miss Chicago classic. Check out the full Chicago preview here, and I am not going to check out the full Chicago preview here because I do not want to sound like Mother Goose. And yeah, they put which has become a Labor Day favorite. It's which has become. Come on, AVP. Anyway, so there's the three. Their packages include 3-day pass, a weekend pass, and then the 4-pack. Which, yeah, I'm promoting. So be it. And streaming will be on ESPN Plus, Bally Sports Live for courts 1 and 2, and Canada TSN, which is streaming all day, all weekend. So there's that. And Cale Henderson pops into the chat room. He says, "What's up, Teran? Love watching women's volleyball. Nebraska is always legit." I'm going to be discussing that a little bit later, but to close out the Chicago Gold Series, I got to go over the entry list for the men's and women's side. Unfortunately, the bracket has not been released, and I don't know and I can't really fully go into detail on who is facing who, but that would basically be boring anyway. So the top seed in the Chicago Open is Teran Rodriguez and Kristen Nuss. If you remember from last year, Teran Rodriguez and Kristen Nuss had to win the tournament to qualify for the Phoenix Championships in the AVP playoffs, which they did, and they wound up winning the whole thing, which was pretty incredible if you ask me. So Cloth and Nuss are the 1 seed, Kelly Cheng and Sarah Hughes are the 2 seed, Brandy Wilkerson and Melissa Humana Paredes are the 3 seed, and then Therese Cannon and Sarah Sponsel are the 4 seed. Then everyone else is as follows, is included into the main draw. Julia Scholes and Betsy Flint, Brooke Bauer and Tina Gradina, Zana Muno and Savvy Simo, Corinne Quiggle and Sarah Skirmerhorn, Molly Turner and Alexandra Wakowitz, Emily Stockman and Megan Kraft, Haley Harward and Kelly Kalinsky, and then Gina Yorongo and Sarah Pavin round off the last main draw participants. So that's that for all the main draw participants on the women's side. And then for the qualifiers, there are 4 qualifiers. They consist of Tony Rodriguez and Deanna Kraft, Tegan Van Gunst and Kim Hildreth, who they actually wound up winning silver in a international beach volleyball tournament, which is cool. Carly Can and Lexi Denneberg, and then Devin Newberry and Katie Horton. So a lot of new partners outside of like the top 5 or so. We even get to see Tina Gradina in this tournament, which she was a big time standout at USC, and she also was part of she also represented Latvia in the Tokyo Olympics, which was pretty awesome, or the 2020 Olympics, which I thought was really cool, and she and her partner finished 4th, which is great. I think Tina Gradina is definitely going to progress, and she's definitely going to be a problem for the international volleyball scene. So that is basically your stacked women's volleyball Chicago Gold Series lineup right there. Now for the men's side of things. So the top seed is Miles Partain and Andy Benish. 2 seed is Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner. Yes, Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner. This time I'm going to get it right. Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner. I'm not going to mix up Theo Brunner and Kame Schulk. Speaking of Kame Schulk and Tri Bourne are the 3 seed, and then Miles Evans and then Chase Budinger are the 4 seed. And then everyone else are as follows in the main draw. Yeah. Miles Evans and Chase Budinger are the 4 seed. Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander and Taylor Crabb are the 5 seed. And then going downward is Evan Corey and Troy Field, Avery Drost, friend of the show, and Phil Dahlhauser, Kyle Friend and Tim Brewster, Billy Allen and Allison Cerruti, Tim Baumgren and Paul Lottman, Hagen Smith and Logan Weber, Jake Dydrich and Chase Frischman, Sean Cook and that's it. Chase Frischman and Jake Dydrich are the final ones of the main draw. And then the qualifiers, there are 4 qualifiers just like on the women's side. They consist of Sean Cook and Cody Caldwell, Celia Tucker, and I'm going to really mispronounce this guy. George Klasnik, Lev Prima, and Alvaro Filho, and then Caleb Quakel and Garrett Patterson. I feel bad for someone that has pronounced the partner's name of Celila Tucker. Yikes. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that first name of Klasnik, but that is such a tough name to pronounce. It's spelled D-J-O-R-D-J-E. I'm sorry if I can't pronounce it correctly. If you're fans of him, please forgive me. Anyway, so that is that for the Chicago Open preview. That's pretty much all I can really give you in terms of the preview. They don't really release the bracket until like maybe Wednesday or Thursday. But that's all I can give you in terms of the Chicago Open, in terms of a preview. I can't wait for it to begin, as the championships are really on the horizon. And soon the Laguna Beach Open is going to be on the horizon. And that's the tournament I probably and hopefully plan on attending, just because I want to attend that tournament. And I think it would be good times to attend another AVP tournament. And this time I gotta be more prepared and attend as a member of the media. Now, I obviously have to be aware that there still might be NCAA women's volleyball matches happening just because, well, it's AVP season still intertwines with NCAA women's volleyball season, but I digress. Anyway, the Laguna Beach Open is actually the final tournament of the AVP season, as that's actually going to be on October 13th and October 15th. October 13th through the 15th. So you could already pencil me out from the 13th just because, well, I'm going to be working. And then for the 14th and 15th, yeah, that still is up in the air. But I'm certain I'll be there for the final day, but time will tell. All right, but that's that for the AVP portion of this show. Let's talk a little high school girls volleyball. We're only going to discuss this a little bit brief. So when it came to the high school girls volleyball scene, there was a big-time tournament that happened in the state of Texas. It was the Volleypalooza Tournament, and there was this one team that everyone knows the name of, for most people know the name of, Mater Dei, wound up partaking in it. But first, before they went into that tournament, they actually played a team from Texas called Ruse from Leander, and they actually beat Ruse in 4 sets in Texas. So that was kind of the tip of the iceberg for Mater Dei and them playing a team from Texas. But then in the Volleypalooza tournament, they really kicked it into overdrive. They beat Boswell, Brandeis, and Conroe on the first day. And then they beat Highland Park, Liberty, and Bishop Lynch on the second day. Then in the gold tournament, or the knockout round, they took down Sachs? I can't pronounce this name. It's a Texas name. It's spelled Sachse. Sachs? Either way, they defeated that team in 3 sets. Then they defeated a very familiar team that I know the name of, Cathedral Catholic, in straight sets in the semifinals. But keep in mind, these matches are best 2 out of 3. And beating Cathedral Catholic was huge, just because you got to remember, Cathedral Catholic went a perfect 42-0. They wound up winning the CIF Southern Section and CIF State championships in the highest division, being Division 1 for the Southern. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. Cathedral Catholic won the San Diego section in the Open Division, and then they also won the CIF State Championship in the Open Division. I forgot. San Diego differs from the Southern section. But Cathedral Catholic was last year's national champion. They only lost 1 set last year, which was to Miracosta of Manhattan Beach. So the fact that, and they also had won 7 straight matches going into this match. So I will say this, if you're doing your math correctly, Mater Dei snapped a 49-match winning streak against Cathedral Catholic, which honestly, it was huge right there. Now, the sets were close. It was 28-26 and then 25-23 that Mater Dei won, but Mater Dei is legit. They really do have some really talented players. And they also, and then the final, Mater Dei defeated Presentwood Christian in the final in straight sets, which was also incredible. Which, in my opinion, it was not as close as the Cathedral Catholic win. But honestly, great win for Mater Dei and great tournament run, as Mater Dei is 12-0 to start the season. And I actually did interview, I don't know if y'all saw this on Twitter, but I actually interviewed 3 of Mater Dei's players. They're all sisters, Ava, Kaylee, and Layla Ostavar. The setter, Ava, is actually committed to UC Santa Barbara, while Laylee and Kayla are both not uncommitted. Laylee is actually an outside hitter. She's like 5'10", 5'11", while Kayla is a defensive specialist and libero, but I digress on that part. But they're all really cool. They're all sisters, and if they all become big time, I will say this, I was the first one to interview them for a podcast/volleyball show. Anyway, but for Mater Dei altogether, they look very good. Last year was actually the first time they did not make the Southern Section Division 1 finals, which was very odd to see. They actually wound up losing to Miracosta in the so-called semifinals, even though they had pool play last year. Yeah, Mater Dei is, it's Drewski said it best. They are a factory machine in high school, and They are well coached in girls volleyball. Their head coach is Dan Odell, a former Penn State men's volleyball player who played for friend of the show, Mark Pavlik. And then I will also just say he guided Mater Dei to 8 straight CIF Southern Section finals. Now, obviously, we're not including 2020 because there was no season in terms of CIF Southern Section girls volleyball, but for all the years that there was CIF Southern Section playoffs, Mater Dei has been to the finals the past 8 seasons. Last year was kind of the first time that Mater Dei did not make the finals, as they lost to a very talented Mira Costa team, which eventually lost to Sierra Canyon. But this Mater Dei team looks very talented, and they have so much upside this year, as some people thought that they were going to take a step back because they lost Bobby Gubbins to beach volleyball. Bobby Gubbins was actually on their previous teams the past 3 years, and then she committed to Stanford for indoor volleyball, and then she had a change of heart and she wanted to commit to Stanford for beach volleyball. So instead of playing indoor for her senior year, she's playing beach for her senior year. But Mater Dei does have other talented players like Isabel Clark and Samara Gordon. And then, like I said, they have the Ostavar girls, Kayla, Laylee, and Ava. And then Julia Kakis is another great setter. She's committed to Brown. Melissa Kawa, she is definitely grown as a libero. I think she could be something special. And then one player I definitely would keep an eye out for in the future, Emma Kingston. She is a whopping 6'4", and the scary thing is, she's only a freshman. I'm not kidding you. Mater Dei has a 6'4" freshman middle blocker. Now, I don't know if Dan Odell will keep her in the middle forever. Maybe he'll throw her on the right side. But that's scary, dude. 6'4", and she's only a freshman. Meaning she's probably hasn't hit her growth spurt. Good gracious. And they also have other talented players like Addison Cody, Megan Rice. No, not the Megan Rice from the AVP, who went to Redondo Union High School. They also have... And yeah, that's pretty much it right there. So Mater Dei is looking legit early on, and winning that Volleypalooza tournament is no easy feat because they had to go from California to Texas, and it's a different change of a time zone. They had to play teams that they're not familiar with, and they had to face a Cathedral Catholic team who still is pretty good, even though they graduated Julia Blyashov. But I will say this, it doesn't look like Cathedral Catholic looks like the same team because they finished 4th in Volleypalooza, as... I'm actually going to check who they lost to. They lost to Grand Oaks in 3 sets. And Grand Oaks hails from the great state of Texas, Spring, Texas. But, yeah, Cathedral Catholic isn't really the same team, but they're still going to be up there in talent. But back to Mater Dei, they actually have a big game this week as they actually hit the road to Manhattan Beach to play Mira Costa tomorrow as of this recording. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday, they will be playing Mira Costa tonight, which is going to be a huge matchup. Mira Costa wound up winning the Ann Kang tournament, which was so big. And honestly, Mira Costa and Mater Dei could be on the path of facing each other in the semifinals or the finals of the CIF Southern Section playoffs. It all depends on where the committee puts them in terms of pool play. But I think the Mustangs and the Monarchs are going to be on a warpath to face one another. And with Mira Costa having Charlie Furbringer back in the fold, it's going to be big time. And if I didn't have work tomorrow, I honestly would attend that Mira Costa Mater Dei match. But unfortunately, it's in Manhattan Beach, and I have work the following day, so yeah. So that's pretty much that for all things high school girls volleyball. I don't want to bore my NCAA women's volleyball audience, but yeah, that's pretty much all that for high school girls volleyball. Jumping over to some U.S. women's national team volleyball. So the U.S. women's national volleyball team, even though it wasn't really the traditional team with like the usual suspects like Dana Retke and Annie Drews and all that, they actually partook in the NORCECA Final Six, as the U.S. took down Canada. This actually started on August 20th, so this whole thing started last Sunday. So this started 8 days ago as of this recording. But They took down Canada in straight sets on August 20th. Then the day after, they took down Puerto Rico in straight sets. Day after, they took down Mexico. And then on August 24th, 2 days after they took down Mexico, they took down Cuba. And then to close out pool play, they took down the Dominican Republic in a 5-set thriller. Dominican Republic was actually the host team of the NORCECA Final Six, which that's actually big time that the U.S. wound up beating that team. And then the U.S. actually advanced to the semifinals because they finished in the top 2. Because in the Final Six, if you finish in the Final Six, or you finish, I think, top 3 in pool play, if you finish in the top in pool play, which top 3 teams go to the Final Six, if you're the top seeded team from your pool, you advance to the semifinals regardless. It's kind of like the Big West Conference tournament in men's volleyball, but I digress. So in the semifinals, the U.S. swept Mexico, and then the gold medal match, the U.S. took on the Dominican Republic, the host team of the NORCECA Final Six, where the U.S. wound up winning in 4 sets, 24-26, 25-18, 25-20, and 25-21. So the U.S. had the following players on this team. Kendall White, libero from Penn State, Sarah Parsons, or Sarah Wilhite Parsons, from the University of Minnesota, Jenna Gray from the University of Stanford, Simone Lee from Penn State, Brooke Nunaviller from Oregon, Danielle Hart from Wisconsin, Stephanie Samity from Minnesota, Maddie Gates from Stanford, Kayla Hanneline from Northern Iowa, Zoe Fleck from Texas/UCLA/UC Santa Barbara/ you get the point, Taylor Mims from Washington State, Logan Eggleston from the University of Texas, the same one that I got to see last weekend, Serena Gray from Pitt/Penn State. Yes, I will gladly say the original name of some of these teams, or from some of these players who basically attended the previous school, but yeah. And then lastly, Sydney Hilly from Wisconsin. So that is basically the players from the U.S. women's roster of the NORCECA Final Six. They were head coached by former set point guest Brad Rostratter. So that was great to see Brad Rostratter lead the ladies to a gold medal in the NORCECA Final Six. His assistant coaches were Jonathan Charette, the Long Beach City head coach on the men's side, and then Kirsty Jackson. Then Peter Wong was the team manager and performance analyst, and then the athletic trainer was Madeline Peterson. So, round of applause to the U.S. women's volleyball team in the 2023 NORCECA Final Six. It wasn't the traditional women's national team, but it still is a USA team that wound up winning gold, and there were some familiar NCAA college names. So that is that for that little bit of USA women's volleyball news. So in case you didn't listen in the first half of the show, my trivia question for you all is, who was the team that Colorado State beat all the way back in 2014? And remember, this was the top, and here's your clue. This team was in the top 10, and Colorado State beat them on September 12th, 2014. If you know, leave it in the comment section, whether it's on Spreaker, if you're listening live, or DM me, or basically just hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, X or Instagram, or basically leave it in the comment section on YouTube. I'll probably have it in the timestamps as a reminder of the trivia question that I put, and then I'll give you a shout out. All right, now for my team of the week. My NCAA women's volleyball team of the week for week 1 is Long Beach State. Now, you're probably wondering, why has Teran got to be a homer like that? Why does he have to give the award out to Long Beach State? Well, Long Beach State made me eat my words, and he made Daniel Gilman eat his words for saying this wasn't going to be a great match or an exciting match. That's the number one thing. The number two thing, like I said, Long Beach State did something they hadn't done in almost 22 years. They upset the number 1 seed, which was pretty darn good if you ask me. And it was Tyler Hildebrandt's big breakout win as a head coach. And it was Long Beach State's big marquee win. Like, Long Beach State had been long yearning for a breakout win ever since maybe the Brian Gimolaro era. I mean, they've had some decent wins under Joy Mackenzie Furbringer. They had that win over San Diego, which I got to cover, which was very nice. But honestly, this is the one that really takes the cake, and probably ate it too. So, and then lastly, again, it was a packed house, and they were the reigning national champions. And like I said on Twitter, when you beat the number one team, when you prove me wrong, and when you do something that hasn't been historic, you are my team of the week. So I just can't give it to anyone else. Like, I understand many are going to say, well, Long Beach State lost to Loyola Marymount. It's tough to come back and basically win that matchup because Loyola Marymount is so good. They have a 6'5" giant in Kari Geisberger. Sam Hastings is a freaking vacuum cleaner in terms of digging the ball. Michelle Schaefer is a sniper on the service line, and she can swing the ball really well. And Loyola Marymount was just so crisp and so clean in terms of their game that you would think that they actually would have taken a set off of Texas. So like I said, I feel Long Beach State is my perfect team of the week. I understand there are other teams that deserve it, but I really feel the need to give Long Beach State this honor. I understand people will, for those that don't know, I am an alum of Long Beach State, but I have to give this award to them. I have to give this weekly award. They have to be the first one to accept this award. They have to be the first one to get this award. I'll obviously have other teams that deservedly get this award. Don't worry, I'm not going to give the award to them every single week for them beating like CSUN or Cal Poly or UC San Diego or Cal State Fullerton. It's not going to be like that, everybody. Don't worry. Long Beach State's not going to get this award weekly. There are going to be other teams that deserve it. It's just all about who a team beats, what history a team makes, and which team a team beat. And basically where the team won in. So, yeah. And if there are any other teams that you think are deserving of my weekly Team of the Week honors in terms of men's or women's volleyball, in terms of NCAA women's volleyball, just let me know. And I'm doing this sadly only for Division 1 or the highest division. I'm sorry to Division 2 or below, but I just don't have enough time on my hands. And I'm trying to make this I'm trying to be better with my show, and I'm trying to make this not be over like 90 or so minutes. Like, we're almost at 90 minutes as we speak. So there's that right there. But Long Beach State is my NCAA Women's Volleyball Team of the Week. But depending on who a team beats, where the team wins at, and who had the big game, and what history the team made is going to be the prerequisite of my Team of the Week. All right, now let's move on to the top volleyball matches to watch for in Week 2. So as of this recording on Monday, we have a lot of good volleyball matches from Tuesday all the way down to Sunday. So Tuesday, being tomorrow, we have number 7 Texas at number 5 Minnesota. Oh man, now we're getting into some really good volleyball matches. And silly me, I forgot to do the AVCA Top 25, which I got to remember that it's the AVCA / TeraFlex Top 25. So, yeah. So, anyway, going on to the top 25 of this week. So 25 through 21 consists of Purdue at 25, Tennessee at 24, Kansas at 23, Western Kentucky at 22, and Arkansas at 21. 20 through 16 consists of Creighton at 20, Marquette at 19, Rice at 18, Washington State at 17, and Baylor at 16. 15 through 11 consists of Kentucky at 15, Penn State at 14, Houston at 13, Ohio State at 12, and Georgia Tech at 11. And then 10 through 6 consists of Pitt at 10, BYU at 9, Florida at 8, Texas at 7, like I just spoiled, and Oregon at 6. And then I guess I just mentioned it. Minnesota is number 5 after I just spoiled it. Good job. So 4 through 1 consists of Nebraska at 4, Louisville at 3, Stanford at 2, and your new number 1 team in the AVCA / TeraFlex Top 25 Women's Volleyball Division 1 Coaches Poll is Wisconsin. Yes, the Badgers are the new number 1 team in the AVCA/TeraFlex Top 25 Women's Volleyball Coaches Poll. So there you have it. We had 2 teams enter the top 25 as San Diego and USC, the teams that I think are not deserving of making or being in the top 25. They are out of there, and Kansas and Tennessee are in the top 25. Wisconsin is the new number 1. Texas fell all the way down to 7 as the committee showed them no mercy after that loss to Long Beach State. They're actually one of 2 teams that has a loss in the top 10, so food for thought right there. All right, but that is that for the AVCA/TeraFlex Women's Volleyball Division I Coaches Poll. Now let's get on into or finish up the matches to watch for in Week 2. So number 7 versus number 7 Texas at number 5 Minnesota. This doesn't need much of an introduction. This is going to be a really good match, and it's on a Tuesday as well. I guess it's going to be a barn burner. These are the type of matches that need to be nationally televised. Whether it's on FS1, whether it's on Fox, whether it's on ESPN. Just nationally televise this matchup. And you thought that matchup's good? You've got number 8 Florida hitting the road to Northern California to take on number 2 Stanford. Stanford fans, I'm just going to also tell you this. Please support the Lady Cardinal. This is a really good team, and they're ever since the 2019 season, Stanford is going to be a legit program. I think Stanford has the legitimacy to be really good this year. And with Kendall Kipp returning, with Aaliyah Rubin back in the fold, Katie Baird back in the fold, Julia Blyashov even got some playing time. She was a phenomenal beast on Cathedral Catholic before getting injured. They also have Cammie Minor back in the fold at setter. This Stanford team is going to be really good. So, Stanford fans, just please do support Stanford this year. There has to be a packed crowd. It just can't be the turnout like it was when Stanford played San Diego in the Elite Eight. And yes, Paul Sunderland did confirm that when I talked to Paul Sunderland at the Big West Conference Men's Volleyball Championship. Anyway, so jumping to Wednesday, we have number 1 Wisconsin taking on number 21 Arkansas. So Arkansas is kind of that under-the-radar team. I think Arkansas can really do good this season, but now they got to host the big, bad, scary Wisconsin. And it's not just Wednesday. They got to host them Thursday. So I hope Arkansas is ready for big-time matchups because they're going to get a pair of them this week. And then also on Wednesday, I got a sneaky good matchup right here. LMU at number 9 BYU. Now, I screwed up yesterday, and I thought that Trent Kirsten said that his team was going to be playing BYU on Tuesday. They're actually flying out to Provo to play BYU on Wednesday. So they're flying out Tuesday and then playing BYU on Wednesday. So I had to delete it and re-upload it because I'm an idiot. But also on Wednesday, this is kind of my match of the week, and this is probably the weirdest match of the week, but it's Omaha at number 4 Nebraska, and you're probably wondering, well, why is that match of the week? Omaha at number 4 Nebraska? Teran, what are you talking about? It's at Memorial Stadium, which is where the Nebraska football team plays. I'm hearing that there's going to be 92,000 plus at this event. This is going to be Volleyball Day at Memorial Stadium for the University of Nebraska and for all of Omaha, Nebraska, or Nebraska-Omaha. Regardless, this is kind of the big-time event where there could be history made here. If and when Nebraska cracks this record of 92,000 plus here at Memorial Stadium, then that'll be the most that a women's sporting event will have in terms of a women's sporting event. It'll be the most attendance for a women's sporting event. So that's going to be quite something if that record gets smashed. I'm sure there's going to be 92,000 plus. So I'm excited for it. There's also going to be an exhibition match between junior colleges. And there's also going to be a concert, which this isn't a pop culture podcast. This is a volleyball podcast or a volleyball show. This isn't a pop culture show. But I digress. Those are Wednesday's matchups. Like I mentioned, Wisconsin plays Arkansas on back-to-back nights. Then on Thursday, we have number 24 Tennessee taking on San Diego in San Diego. Now, San Diego is winless while Tennessee is undefeated. San Diego is no longer in the top 25 while Tennessee is. If Tennessee wants to really prove itself, they're going to have to beat some good opponents. And San Diego, while they're not the best opponent, they could probably finish them off. They're kind of the carcass of a top 25 team, but they're still pretty talented. They still have Layla Blackwell, who is pretty darn good. So if Tennessee thinks they're going to be rolling into this matchup in San Diego, California, thinking that this is going to be a walk in the park, they got another thing coming. Also on Thursday, we have number 25 Purdue at number 23 Kansas. Kansas is also in the top 25, if y'all remember from what I said. They're also undefeated. Purdue went 1-2 on their home floor last weekend, which is, gosh. And they even lost to the likes of Loyola Chicago. That's almost as worse as losing to the Untouchables. But I digress. So if Purdue wants to prove itself as a top 25 team and they don't want to fall out, they actually should beat this Kansas team. But it's going to be tough to beat Kansas at Kansas. Kansas is pretty darn good. They almost beat Texas last year. But that was last year. Kansas is really going to have to bring their A game. They did beat Texas A&M and... Was it Texas A&M? I know they beat Pepperdine last weekend, but they also beat one other opponent, which honestly, I do want to say that it was what's their face? It was South Dakota. I'm sorry, or no, it wasn't South Dakota. It was Omaha. So why did Pepperdine play Texas A&M? I'm confused. Anyway, Kansas took down Pepperdine, and they also took down Omaha, which is good, in University of Omaha, which is nice. Not easy winning in that a little bit of a hostile environment. Now Kansas gets to play Purdue, and they also get another big-time matchup this weekend. So I'll say this about Kansas. Now they really got to prove themselves as a top 25 team. You took down Pepperdine, which I thought was pretty good. I am very surprised Pepperdine got swept in not just this matchup, but the Texas A&M match. But now Kansas has really got to prove themselves this week. If they do, they deserve to be top 25. If they don't, go to the back of the line, Kansas. Anyway, so that's Thursday's matchups. Friday's matchups in terms of matches to watch for, we have number 10 Pitt at number 15 Kentucky. This will be played at the Rupp Arena, and the two will actually be playing on Sunday at Pitt. So the battle of two teams that drastically fell to teams that I didn't think that they would lose to. I didn't think Kentucky would lose to Colorado State, while honestly, I did not think that Pitt was going to lose to BYU. Now it's all about picking up the pieces for both of these teams. And if either of these teams earn a split, or if both these teams earn a split this year or this week, so be it. But if one team goes 2-0, then that team deserves to be in the top 10. The other team deserves to not be in the top 10. Simple as that. Also on Friday, we have number 22 Western Kentucky at number 14 Penn State. Well, Western Kentucky, here's the thing. You pulled off a great victory over Marquette, but you lost to Dayton. And you also, I think, had to go 5 with another team. I don't remember the team, but I will say this. You're going to get tested this week against Penn State. And that Penn State team is going to be angry. Penn State, if you want to prove yourself as an actual legitimate team that is going to be a national championship contender, I think you might want to actually win this one. Like, this weekend is ripe for the picking for Penn State to win out this weekend. Like, the only team that's actually really good that they could run into trouble with is Western Kentucky. I'm not trying to say their other opponents stink, but Western Kentucky is probably public enemy number 1. On Friday, we have number 19 Marquette versus number 25 Purdue at University of Kansas. So Marquette and Purdue are basically in the same boat. They kind of had rough weekends. Marquette won twice, but it was kind of ugly. And we all remember they lost to Western Kentucky, which was the first upset of the season. So for Marquette, it's just all about them trying to bounce back and get back on track. I think it's doable, but they cannot let Raven Colvin and Ilana Chicoine, I don't remember her last name, it's something Chloe Chicoine and Eva Hudson go off. They cannot let Raven Colvin, Chloe Chicoine, and Eva Hudson go off. If they do, then they're in trouble. And then for Purdue, they obviously know, like I said in the matchup against Kansas, they got to actually win the matchups that they're going to be challenged in, because the Big Ten is going to be coming, and if they don't play up to their standards, they're going to get chewed up and spit out right away. Also on Friday, we have number 11 Georgia Tech at number 12 Ohio State. Like I mentioned earlier, Georgia Tech is at the Ohio State this weekend. Ohio State had a little bit of a scare this weekend. I don't remember who they... It was against Bowling Green. That's who it was. Bowling Green took Ohio State to 5 sets, and then Georgia Tech swept USF and then beat Penn State in 4. So for Georgia Tech, if they beat Ohio State, they are for sure legit. And this is without Julia Bergman. This is following the Julia Bergman era. For Ohio State, this is my thing. Here's my thing. You got past the first weekend. Now you got to prove yourself, because the schedule gets a little tougher from here on out. So if you want to prove yourself as a top 10-ish team, you don't want people to label you as you're too high-ranked, I would suggest beating Georgia Tech. The two teams also play on Saturday. And then closing off Friday's matches, we have number 18 Rice at number 16 Baylor. Oh boy. These Texas teams are going to be tussling with one another in Waco. I'm really excited for this matchup. I think this is a very underrated matchup, and I wish Rice was playing Texas this year. I think they are. Not sure. But either way, I think Rice can beat Baylor, but Baylor is still good across the board. This is one of those in-state rivalry matches where you never know what you're going to get, and this is an all-bets-are-off match, so I'm really excited for what Rice can bring against Baylor. If Rice could play the same way they did against SC, I think Rice takes this one, but don't count out Baylor. They were battle-tested against the likes of Wisconsin and Minnesota, so you never know what you're going to get with this. And then Saturday, like I mentioned, you've got Georgia Tech, Ohio State, and then we have number 18 Marquette at number 23 Kansas. Here's my thing. Like I've mentioned the previous times, Marquette and Kansas, Kansas is not in the same boat as Marquette. Marquette kind of had a rocky weekend. They still had a successful weekend. Here's the weekend where they kind of have to prove themselves. If they can go 2-0 or undefeated this weekend, they're golden. They could be legit this weekend. But if Kansas wins, then they prove themselves as a top 25 team. If Kansas goes winless this weekend, then they don't deserve to be in the top 25, and you can go in the back of the line with all the receiving votes teams. And we could pull Hawaii up there, because I think Hawaii can be a top 25 team. They were so close to being top 25. Gosh dang it, voters. And why aren't people showing love to Long Beach State? Anyway, Marquette, Kansas is going to be a really good matchup. So we'll see what happens. And then a sneaky good matchup on Saturday is LSU at number 20 Creighton. This is actually a good matchup. Now, LSU, I haven't really given a whole lot of love to. I think LSU is so much better than what people are saying. And yes, I said much twice, but I think LSU is so under the radar, and they're so underrated. They split their matchups against UCLA. They actually had to go 5 both times with the Bruins. And I know UCLA is not the same UCLA as they were back in 2019 or in 2020 or the spring of 2021. But they still look legit. Alfie Reft has done a good job so far, and he's got a pretty good squad. They've got Carly Hendrickson, and then they've got the Anna Dodson. You just can't count out Anna Dodson. And then they've got Peyton Dueck. If I'm pronouncing that name wrong, I'm so sorry. But I'll be seeing UCLA this weekend. But back to LSU. LSU is so underrated, dude. I really think LSU has a good shot at making the NCAA tournament. But time will tell. And then Creighton, obviously losing to Duke sucks. But if you could get past that, if you can get off the mat and you could take down LSU, then you might be in good shape. A loss is only bad if it's dwelled on. And For Creighton, I don't think they're going to be dwelling on this too much. They're number 20 in the coaches poll. They could have been a lot more higher than 20, but it is what it is at this point. And then on Sunday, you've got a lot of good matchups. You've got number 2 Stanford at number 7 Texas. This could have easily been a top 5 matchup had it not been for Texas crumbling against Long Beach State, but I digress. So this is going to depend on if Asia O'Neal... Texas's success in this matchup against Stanford is going to depend on if Asia O'Neal plays. If O'Neal plays, then Texas has a shot. If she doesn't, then I think Kendall Kipp is going to go off for 20 kills. They also have a Leah Rubin who's good, Katie Baird, they've got Julia Blyashov, I think Annabelle Smith is still there, if I'm not mistaken. Cami Miner has done an outstanding job. Alina Ogolive, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. Stanford is just loaded altogether. They are just stacked across the board. I would not be surprised if they wound up winning this matchup. And I would not be surprised if they beat Florida either. But it's a time-will-tell process. And then Sunday, we have number 24 Tennessee taking on number 1 Wisconsin. This is going to be an uphill climb for the Lady Vols. You're now facing some legit competition. You're no longer playing baby boo teams. You're now facing some pretty darn good teams, like San Diego, and now you're facing Wisconsin. So you better bring your A game against the Lady Badgers. If you do, then you will be hailed as a hero, kind of like Long Beach State. But if you don't, then that could kind of hurt you in the coaches poll for next week. It all depends on what happens throughout your other matches this week, but I digress. And I already mentioned Kentucky at Pitt. And the last matchup to mention for on Sunday is number 5 Minnesota at number 8 Florida. This is going to be a really good matchup. And let me just tell you why. Minnesota is for real. Taylor Landfair is the real deal. Kylie Murr is a defensive dynamo. I can't pronounce her last name, but I know it's not Wertscher. It's McKenna W. She is phenomenal as well. So I'm just going to say this. Minnesota is stacked across the board. And then for Florida, they are in the top 10. Now you got to prove yourself as a top 5 team. If you want to stay in the top 10, you got to beat these top 10 teams, like Minnesota, like Stanford. If you do, you're welcome to stay in the top 10. But if you don't, you're going down, because now your schedule starts to pick up. Like, you were going to get a tough schedule regardless. And the fact that you barely beat South Florida kind of makes me raise a couple brows. So you beat Penn State in 4, even though that 4th set you had to basically come back from behind 4. I think they had to score 5 straight points to basically steal that 4th set. And then obviously they had to win in 5 against USF. Now you get an even bigger challenge. The good news is for Florida is that they actually get to play in their own home stadium after they play Stanford. So hang in there, Florida. If you could just get through that matchup against Stanford, you might be in good shape. But that is going to do it for all of the notable matchups to watch for in Week 2. I will be at Long Beach State for the Long Beach State Tournament. Yes, they have 2 tournaments. They actually have 2 tournaments. One is named the LBSU Tournament, and the other is named the Long Beach State Tournament. The Long Beach State Tournament, I'm actually only going to be there on Saturday. I might be there Friday, but my plans kind of got derailed because of something important. But Indiana plays Long Beach State on Thursday, and then on Friday, Indiana plays UCLA, and then Long Beach State plays Washington. And then on Saturday, Indiana plays Washington, and then UCLA plays Long Beach State. No, Long Beach State is not going to the Big Ten, as Tyler Hildebrand confirmed that after the scrimmage against Pepperdine. Also on Sunday, I will be at UC Irvine for the UC Irvine-Boston College matchup. I'm interested to see what Boston College looks like. I just need to get clearance from the SID in Stacey King, or Shackelford, or whatever her last name is. Either way, I need to get clearance from Stacey King. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I know I said I was going to try to keep it under 90 minutes, but I'm not good enough to do that. Regardless, I will have timestamps in the description, but it's time to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Thank you. One more shout out to those that made my visit to Long Beach State enjoyable, whether it was LMU, Texas, or Long Beach State. I really enjoyed covering the LBSU tournament. I'm sorry I can't be there for the second straight tournament, but it is what it is. Shout out to the chat room. It's Drewski, Cale Henderson, Larry B, Davidson Crooks, and Adam Karnick. I really do appreciate y'all giving me the time in the live chat room on Spreaker. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. I will most likely be having a show on Thursday because I have broadcasting to do on Friday for a high school. But time will tell. I imagine it's going to be Thursday and not Friday, but we'll see what happens. But until then, have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. And I will see you Thursday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I'll see you all Saturday and Sunday at Long Beach State and UC Irvine. Peace!